Yo, I'm Pablo.
And this is Lance, and you're listening to
the Noob and the Knower Fly Fishing Podcast. In this podcast, we pair a driven angler with a seasoned professional to take you from total noob to a fly fishing nerd.
Yeah, we cover reading water, gear, fishing techniques, and much, much more.
With Mr. Lance Egan, star of hit video series Modern Nymphing, Fly Fishing Team USA medalist, and professional guide.
That's right, and here co-hosting, asking the questions on your behalf, is avid fly fisher and outfitter owner Pablo Signori.
So now, let's hit the water. Fish on!
Fish on!
What's up, fishy friends? I hope you are all doing well, enjoying the fall. The leaves are falling. Over here in Chicago, it's starting to get real dismal. We get that overcast sky that will probably stay here till about the end of April. I personally romanticize it when it first comes out, but then eventually I just get so annoyed that I get seasonal depression. So yeah, if you can relate with me, high five on that. Whoopsh. In other news, talking about the fall also, I would like to sort of rant on something that I don't think I've ever actually said publicly, but isn't it strange how when the fall comes around, we decorate our houses with like fake dead leaves and pumpkin stuff everywhere, and a lot of people carve pumpkins for Halloween, and a lot of these things don't actually grow in the microclimates where we live. I just find that kind of interesting. When I used to live in LA, all the pumpkins would just rot within 2 days because, well, yeah, the weather was so warm that they weren't like basically in an outdoor refrigerator. So yeah, interesting stuff. Thanks for letting me rant. You're a good friend. Anyways, we're talking about gear 2.0 here. We're doing the revisited gear episode. This time we're going to be talking about rods, reels, lines, terminal tackle, all the sexy stuff that we like to nerd out about. This is actually the part 2 of something we already recorded. So when I say bye later in this podcast, it would have been the original goodbye from the first one that you heard. I decided to keep it in there just because it feels more authentic than me punching in and being like, hey, see you guys later. That's my little technical tip for you. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this show. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Now we're going to get into the real fishy stuff. So let's talk about rods. You know, we haven't really gotten super specific as to like what you use, but I do want to make that list. When we make the list, we're going to have a very clear, like we did the first time, list of everything that Lance uses, from clothing to gear to fly lines to all that. So now we're going to get into the rods, which is always fun to talk about. Why don't you walk us through your preferred rods, and that would be weight, length, and make model for trout fishing on a stream, whatever applications, whether that be streamer, Euro nymphing, tight lining, whatever, dry fly fishing. Then we can do lakes or still water,
Same.
or we could do warm water. You know, walk us through this. Mm-hmm. If it's way too many, then you can give us the greatest hits, and then we can cover the rest in the list.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole podcast on rods, right? But
we should.
I mean, if we're doing trout fishing first, I guess if I start from the heavy end of things for me, trout fishing wise, it's usually a 6-weight is kind of the heaviest rod I use for trout. Currently I'm fishing the Sage R8 core in a 10-foot 6-weight for most of my still water fishing. And if I'm going to throw larger streamers or a team of streamers on rivers, I also tend to use that rod. I also got one of the Sage payloads in a 6-weight, which is a shorter, it's an 8-foot 9-inch 6-weight. And I love the payload in a heavier rod. I honestly have not loved that 6-weight for what the purposes that I use it. It's been much more difficult to cast than the 10-foot 6-weight R8 for me, for like throwing the same rigs. But not to throw shade, I love the payload. Like my big trout, like lake trout and pike and muskie, big fish rod, predator style fish rod, I've really liked the Sage payload in a 9-weight. Is I think the easiest rod I've thrown big flies with. For some reason, that 6-weight doesn't jive with me, but this 10-foot 6-weight R8 core is kind of my heavy rod. What else? If we move down from there, I guess a lot of times if I'm fishing out of a boat, I tend to fish like a 9-foot 4 or 9-foot 5 weight, and I've been using the Loomis Asquith series for those, just 9-footers.
Dry fly or?
Yeah, dry fly. That's most of what I do from a boat is dry fly fishing. I'll do a dry dropper occasionally. I like throwing streamers from a boat, but streamers, unless I'm throwing small streamers, then sometimes just the 9-foot 5 weight. But most of my streamer fishing, I'm using that 10-foot 6 weight. Yeah, the Asquith series from Loomis have been my favorite 4 and 5 weights for a while now. moving down from there, I will wade fish with either of those rods as well. The Asquith series for larger flies, especially like if I'm wade fishing throwing hoppers or, medium to larger terrestrials, I'll often throw the 4 or 5 weight for that. If I'm throwing smaller dry flies, then I've been throwing the new Sage R8 Classic in an 8.5 4. I think my next rod, once I get my taxes paid, my next rod will probably be the 9'4" R8 Classic. I want to spend some more time with that rod. So yeah, fine, like long leader, fine present, light presentation, dry fly fishing, that R8 Classic 864, and then kind of rounding out the crew, most of my wade fishing where I'm doing Euro nymphing or dry dropper on a Euro rig or jig streamer, and sometimes really small dry flies too. I've been using the Diamondback 10-foot 2-weight Ideal Nymph, which has recently been discontinued, but we've still been able to get some of them for a little while here. But there's a brand new Gen 4 Diamondback coming out that, again, it's actually out now, I should say.
Yeah, it is out.
As of this recording.
Have you been using that one?
I've fished the two 2-weight models, the 10-footer and the 10.7 2-weights I have fished. I haven't fished any of the others, but I would like to have probably a good set of those. I'd like to have the one of the 1-weights. I probably will get the 10.7 2. I'm not sure one other, but I'll probably get a third one, maybe 10.7 or I have a strange application for jig streamers for very large trout on a couple of rivers where I need a rod that will handle pretty heavy flies and also handle big fish, but I don't think I want to go all the way to the 10.7 6 weight is too much rod, I think, for what I want. I need it to have a little more tippet protection. So I need to talk Joe into making like a 10.7 4 maybe is the happy medium there. Anyway, but yeah, I've been using the Ideal Nymphs for the most part. I also have a TNT and the Sage ESN in several sizes. There's a lot of good Euro rods, but most of the time, the last couple of years, I've really been reaching for those Diamondbacks. I think they're really high performing, especially at the price.
Cool. Yeah, he sent me the prototype for that Gen 4, and my first time out, I broke the tip.
Uh-oh, that's no
That
good.
was pretty classic. Back cast into a bridge. Real classic.
Well, that'll do it. So not a rod malfunction, just an angler error.
Pretty par for the course. He has since sent me a new tip for it, but
that's cool.
But I really like that rod. It's really cool. I want to get one for my sister, but apparently they're all sold out according to him. So I'm on a wait list right now.
Yeah, we have not been able to. Didn't get as many as we ordered, and we've had 2 shipments so far. But they are
flying off the shelves.
Yeah, they're hard to keep for sure right now.
Well, that's cool. And then what about
warm water?
Yes.
So warm water, I tend to use that same Sage R8 Core 10-foot 6 weight for like most of our small and largemouth fishing, carp fishing. I tend to use that same rod.
10-foot 6, you said?
10-foot 6 weight, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be 10-foot 6. I've used for all those. I've used 9-footers or 9.5s work fine too, but that's just kind of my go-to 6 weight at the moment, that Sage R8 Core. And then if you move up to heavier rods for warm water, like I mentioned, I really like that Sage Payload in the 9 weight. I'd like to also get one in an 8 eventually, but the 9 has been my happy medium as far as it throws really dense lines with really big flies very, very well.
Nice. I'm not going to talk about my rods because that's just dumb.
No, it's not. Why not?
I do have quite a few, but one thing that I have learned since with the making of that first gear podcast has a lot to do with my experience now that I'm running this outfitter and we're spending some time in the salt flats in Mexico. And I had been using a Norvis Recon 8 weight for a long, long time for pretty much all my saltwater fishing, salmon fishing, steelhead fishing, smallmouth fishing, carp fishing. It was kind of like my big species rod, I guess.
Sure.
I was trying to keep it so that I would have, especially when I first started, I was trying to keep it so I would have sort of like a trout-centric setup with one rod and then a sort of like bigger species, bigger fly-centric setup with another rod. So
I see.
That's long gone. Now I have I don't even know how many rods, but that Orvis was kind of like it was my first rod actually. And what I learned fishing on the flats is that a rod like that doesn't really do the job. When I say that, I mean, you kind of need something that's going to be able to cast much faster. So you need a stiffer rod. And the whole time, as I was learning more and more, I thought that you needed a stiffer rod to cast farther or in the wind, but I never had taken into account how fast these fish move to new locations while you're trying to cast them. So you need a rod that will actually get the fly there in a timely fashion.
Right.
Being able to change directions in a timely fashion, and also pick up and just launch a cast in a timely fashion. If it's too soft, then it's very hard to do, which is what ended up happening to me. So now I have rods that are like specifically for salt. And I've kind of been using those rods for warm water also.
Yeah.
Just because it's fun.
Yes.
But it was a big learning experience for me. So I will say, if you are looking for an 8-weight, a 9-weight, or even probably a 7-weight, I would say, situation for any warm water, think about that. I wouldn't suggest like a rod that's made for the salt, because you might go there sometime. I would do it like if you know you're going, probably, because I don't know. I feel like they're a lot harder to cast, and they're like made for that specific application. I don't know what you think about that, Lance, but
yeah, I think I guess it's rod to rod, but like the most recent saltwater rods that I bought were Sages again, the R8 salts. I bought an 8 and a 10 in those. And yeah, I think they're really easy to load. They're very powerful. They will make quick shots very well. They have a lot of backbone to fight fish. That's kind of what I'm looking for in saltwater type applications as well. I would argue that, I mean, most any 7 for sure and heavier. I mean, some 6s even, but 7, 8 weight and heavier are basically any rod that's made in those from a factory, not a custom rod, will be made saltwater safe. They're going to have aluminum seats, and like there isn't a factory made rod that I'm aware of that comes in like an 8 weight that you can't use in saltwater.
Right.
To your point, the action may not be ideal, or the rod rings, you know, like the especially the stripping guides on a saltwater rod. Sometimes there's an extra stripping guide. Sometimes they're a little larger diameter to allow for quicker shooting of line. But yeah,
I also
would
start thinking about those sinking lines and stuff. It's like a sinking line on a stiffer rod is way nicer to cast. If you know, like when I compare my salt rod to my this like standard 8-weight rod, it's like it feels like a noodle if I'm using the regular one. You know what I mean?
Sure, it's just not quite as, and that's probably more a difference of just the rod you're throwing it than it is the saltwater versus freshwater, or just the action of the rod. But yeah, I mean, there's no reason I don't think to not get a saltwater rod unless you think you'll never go saltwater fishing. But I often tell people in the shop, if they're looking at heavier weight rods, again, you don't have to get a saltwater. You could just, like, if you use the Sage R8 as an example, you can get an R8 core in an 8-weight or the R8 salt in an 8-weight. They're both saltwater safe. If you thought you're going to saltwater fish once every 5 years and the rest of the time it's going to be for pike or steelhead or, you know, salmon or something else, I'd probably get the R8 core. But I think people actually, once they start getting to that stage where they're not just buying a 5-weight and just covering as many bases as possible with one rod, once people start having the income or the fun money, let's call it, to start buying extra rods, they often have the time and means to also do a saltwater trip, you know, once a year, once every other year, or something like that. Just going on my own experience, I know the very first heavyweight rod I bought was, I can't remember the brand. It was a very off-brand rod because it was super cheap, and it was not a saltwater rod, and it was soggy, and it was, you know, action-wise, it was too soft. It was not very powerful, and it didn't even really work very well for what I needed it for in freshwater, but it was cheap and it fit into my budget at the time. But then, like a year and a half later, I had the opportunity to go saltwater fishing, and I had to basically buy a whole nother 8-weight just because that one was not capable of doing what I wanted to do. The components weren't good for it. The action was all wrong. And so I ended up buying 2 8-weights instead of one, and my reel was the same. I went with a really inexpensive reel, which I thought would work fine for freshwater. But as soon as I want to go saltwater fishing, I had to basically scrap that entire outfit. And I would suggest not doing that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Put the money into a good one that's capable of fishing anywhere you want.
I agree with that. My second and final little addendum to the rod section is sort of tangential, but still fits in here, is something that I also learned when I felt like my casting had gotten to a place where I could, I guess, tell the difference, but is trying other people's rods. I started doing that when I would go out with random people, whoever I was fishing with, you know, not necessarily if they were good or bad or had, you know, 5-star reviews, didn't really matter. It was just sort of comparing rods and feeling what different rods feel like in your hands and how they cast differently. And there's so many variables there, right? Like, you know, length, weight, manufacturer, you know, materials, construction, etc.
Action, yeah, the fly line attached to it, the leader setup, and so on.
Exactly. And there's just like a million variables, but it's nice to at least try these out just to sort of see the difference. And you learn a lot about what you have, if you like it or if you don't. You also learn, sometimes you'll pick one up and you're like, whoa, why am I casting so much better than I was before? And those are those aha moments where you're like, okay, is this, no, what? Like, try and figure out why. Is it the rod, or is it the setup? Is it, what is it? I had that happen to me a couple times. One time it was just because it was like a rod that was really nice, and maybe it was like very well matched and matched my casting style. I don't really know. And then another time was when I went to the salt, which we had talked about on the podcast about Ishkalak, where Joe set up my rod and with a leader that like sort of matched everything proper, and like it was completely different feeling than it had been originally. It's just, there's so many variables again, but the point is to start trying to unpack all that and figure out what works, what doesn't, and how different things feel.
Yeah. You don't know what you like until you try it, right?
Yeah, and another funny one that always happens is in the Euro nymphing sort of realm. Sometimes I'll fish with people who are just getting into it and they have a rod and they'll let me try it. And if it's like less than $300, it's usually very, very heavy and it's a total noodle. And I'm always like, here, try my rod. And that's not like me being a jerk and thinking I'm cool. It's just I had someone do that to me and I couldn't believe the difference of how much better I fished with just not even like a super elite rod, just a little bit better,
Yeah. So much lighter, so much more accurate, quicker recovery, more control, more feel.
You were telling me a story about a brand we shall not mention.
Yeah.
And a little anecdotal story. We don't know if it's true or not. And it is actually true.
I know if it's true. Yeah, I was guiding and I had a client that had a brand new rod, a Euro rod, came with 2 tips. He was pretty excited about it. He said, I just got it. I'm just really excited to try it out on this trip. And I didn't fish with it. I was just coaching him up while he's fishing. And so he fished probably half of the day with it and caught plenty of fish and was having fun with it. And he said, hey, why don't you try my rod? And I was like, well, okay, I'll give it a whirl. Why not? And so I made a couple of casts and hooked a fish, pretty decent fish, really quick. I maybe had the rod in my hands about a minute, and I'm landing this fish. And when I go to make kind of the final lift, I blow his rod up. I felt a little sheepish. I broke my client's brand new rod, and he said, oh, luckily it came with 2 tips. And I thought, well, that's because it probably needs them. It wasn't damage that I know of. We didn't hit any bridges with it. I think it was just, you can get a lemon in any, we're not mentioning this brand because we don't want to throw them under the bus, because you can get a manufacturing defect in any brand, choose your brand. But this particular one, the rod was not that great. It was, I think it was about $199.
Subscription.
It was really, really heavy. It was really slow recovery, not accurate at all. Would fatigue my shoulder if I fished it more than 1 minute and without breaking it. It would have worn me out for sure. That client, I told them I would pay for the return, of course, because I felt so bad for breaking his rod. The company stood behind it. They sent him a tip. He wasn't out anything. It was quick and clean and easy. So, shout out to the company that we haven't named for helping them out. But that customer, I had him fish my rod. He didn't have the spare tip with him. He had it in the vehicle, which was like 2 miles from us. So I had him fish my backup rod the rest of the day, which was a different brand that was a lot lighter, much quicker recovery, a lot more feel to it. And he liked that one a lot better. So needless to say, he bought a different rod pretty soon thereafter.
It makes a huge difference when you, especially for, kind of in everything, but in Euro nymphing, because the weight is such a big part of it and the recovery is such a big part of it. Like the minute you get a rod in your hand that's heavy and noodly, it's like so obvious.
Yeah, it's awkward.
If you had been fishing one of those rods that wasn't,
Right.
It sounds snobby, and it's not to be snobby. It's just, it is what it is. It's like,
no, it totally is what it is.
It's game changing for it's one of those things that actually makes a massive difference, I think.
I'm with you. I like your idea. If you fish with buddies, you fish with friends, or you're with a guide or anything, and they have a different rod, you ought to probably take 5-10 minutes out of your day and try it just to see. Maybe you don't like it, but at least you learn something about it. Yeah, I don't want that model, or maybe you love it and you're like, dang, that's my next fly rod, right?
Yeah, it's cool. That's why my buddy Ike had a glass rod. It was like a or something,
mm-hmm.
and we were out fishing and for carp or whatever, and he had me try it, and I was like, this is insane. It was so heavy and slow, but I was like, I bet this would be really fun in like a lower weight. So I ended up getting one, and I love that thing.
Oh, cool.
Lance is over here giving me like new symbols and like no symbols, and I'm like, yeah, I love that rod.
No, you don't love that rod. I think I know which one was it blue by chance?
The one that he was fishing, yeah.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's not so good.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, that's what I was saying. It felt so heavy. So I got a different one, different maker, and I actually love my glass rod. I've had it's a lot of fun. You know, it's a novelty item.
A lot of people love, the novelty of glass rods for sure. I wasn't trying to tell you that for all glass, just that particular one you were mentioning. I think that one's a particular dud. They don't make it anymore, so nobody has to worry about buying it. But
it's kind of clubby.
That one was bad.
Anywho, well, that's cool. So I think we've covered the rods here. We've made fun of a lot of makers, and
we haven't
sounded very elitist, and now we can move on.
you can bleep out the maker that you just threw under the bus.
Yeah, fair. I will. Okay, let's move on to reels. This should be short and sweet.
It should.
Reels. I mean, my perspective hasn't changed much on reels, except for one reel in particular, which is semi-automatic reel, which has gotten a bit more popular. It's not ubiquitous yet, but it's gotten a lot more popular than it was when we first put out the gear issue for specifically Euro tactics. I got one really early on for the States. I had brought one back from Spain with me, and I thought I was cool, and I was really into it, and I had my brother have one made for him because it was like a very boutique-y, not super expensive necessarily, but a boutique maker that was not very well known at the time. Really nice reel, but hand machined and whatnot. But my new take on the semi-automatic is I'm not into it. Lance told me he was never into it, and I was like, that's cool. Just for the listeners, so you know, I don't listen to everything Lance says.
Nor should you. You should find out for yourself.
I find out for myself, and I would say 92.7% of the time I come back and I'm like, you were right. It's kind of like talking to my dad or my wife. It's really annoying. Most of the people in my life are very opinionated and right. What does that say about me? But so...
You should get stronger opinions.
Yeah. So. I kind of started to I don't really like the thing, mainly because of the drag situation. Now, I know some people will add a handle onto theirs, like a traditional fly reel handle, and I think that would help me like it more if I'm dealing with bigger fish, but it seems like I just want drag. I don't want to be fussing with some weird version of it. I haven't fished... There's like a really expensive Swiss brand that makes them Do you remember the name of it?
I think it's Fulgor, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
We're probably not pronouncing that right, but I think it's like Fulgor something like that.
No, it's Pew. That's what it is. Pew Fulgor. PEUX Pew Fulgor. And they're coming in at a hot $1,000 reel right there.
I don't think they're all that much, are they?
The one on Tactical is right now.
Maybe they are. I don't know. I haven't tried that model either.
Yeah, I haven't tried it. So maybe the drag might be nice on this one. I do like... What I really like about the semi-automatic reels is you just like zip, 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 and you're up and you're walking and you're moving. I love that about it. The part of like the quickness of it is really nice. Or if you're changing your fly, you zip the line, you pump it 2 times, and your line's in your hand, and you're changing flies. I love that.
Yeah. But
it comes at a cost that to me is kind of not worth it anymore, which is just, again, it's the drag thing. Like I never feel like I have secure drag. And it's always somewhere like in the middle. It's hard to explain, but it's like I never have the reel exactly where I want it to. Like I'll pull a line out, I'll pull it in, and it's never like exactly the right length. I can't just set it at the length I want it at. It just irks me, which is a shame because I have a really cool reel. But that's my take on that. That's kind of the only thing that's changed in the reel department since the first iteration of this gear podcast. What about you? Do you have any new insights?
No, nothing new really. I use several different brands of reels, but I think same thing applies where the reel for trout fishing, the reel doesn't do as much as we would like it to, right? It mostly holds line. If you're chasing really large trout with really fine tippets, then having a silky smooth drag can play a role, but for most average trout fishing, it's just a fancy line holder. So you get to decide whether you want a piece of art attached to your rod or you just want, bare bones basics, something that holds your line. I'm usually somewhere in the middle of those. I don't fish really any $1,000 reels. I fish a bunch of, let's say, 200 to maybe, I guess, at retail value. Some of the reels I fish are maybe in the $400 or $500 range, but they don't need to be that expensive. They just, I like a lot of I fish a lot of Lamsons and a lot of Ross. I like the really lightweight machined aluminum frames. For me, reels that I've bought in the early 90s were high quality US made machined aluminum reels are still totally fishable today, just like they were then. After thousands of hours, they act like they're almost brand new, just if you just take care of them a little bit. So I'm kind of a fan of US made, ideally machined aluminum reels, but if you use Lamson that's one of my favorite brands of reels. They make their liquid and their remix series that are cast or a blend of the liquid is fully cast. The remix is a machined frame with a cast spool. And then the next step up goes to their GEARRRR series, which is their least expensive fully machined reel. It's still not a cheap reel, I wouldn't call it, but it's not crazy expensive. It's quite light, pretty large arbor, has the exact same drag system as the liquid. It also has the exact same drag system as its higher end reels, the Speedster, the Lightspeed, the Force series. So you're not gaining anything in drag by going up in those reels. You're gaining lighter weight and larger arbor, which the arbor size takes up line quicker. It stores your line in larger coils, so you have less memory and so on. But at some point, we're splitting hairs for trout fishing, not that big of a deal. Saltwater fishing, suddenly the reel becomes a much bigger deal because you're likely to have some fish that are going to burn some line, take some drag, peel off sometimes 100 plus yards of backing. And
is this how you sell reels to your customers?
Well, I'm just going through what I think are the statistics of them, or not statistics is the wrong word.
Do you sell it all?
Do I sell?
There's a Lamson reel.
I am pretty boring. I mean, I think we've established that. Most people listen to this podcast to go to sleep, so there's
that's true.
And I am tired, so that's playing a role here too.
I know. How many times have you said that today?
I've gone through that several times every day of my life. But the reels are, again, you got to have a saltwater capable drag and something that is not going to corrode in the salt. But outside of that, as long as you have capacity and, again, it doesn't have to be an $800 reel. If you're going to use it in salt 150 days a year, you probably should buy a, $600, $800, $1,000 reel because they're just going to hold up longer. But for trout fishing around here, you can catch a whole bunch of fish on a $99 Especial,
Yeah, I think the saltwater thing obviously is like the big difference. And I got to, for the outfitter, we got a bunch of reels from Diamondback, actually, they're Aeroflex reels. And that's the first like saltwater reel I've actually worked with that was like of higher quality. Mm-hmm. And it's just so satisfying. It's like riding like a really nice bike or something where like the mechanics are so smooth. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Ross is another one that I've fished my buddy's rod quite a few times now that he has a Ross. And that's another one, but you don't really notice it as much when you're trout fishing, right? But like in the salt, you really notice it. And it's like even just peeling line off to like set up, it's like
silky,
so satisfying because it's so smooth. It's crazy.
Right.
What rod or what reel are you using for your own nymphing these days?
I've mostly been fishing Lamson still. So I got one of the new Lamson, what's their GEARRRR E series, like their Euro full cage reel. Before that, I was using Speedster or GEARRRR HDs. I have some lines on Ross reels, like the Evolution LTXs. What other line or reels do I have Euro lines on? That's probably most of them that I have Euro stuff on.
Cool.
I don't find that the Euro, it doesn't make that much difference so long as the reel balances the rod. And ideally, it's a larger arbor to reduce memory in your line and your leader.
Yeah, what do you think about like the weights that they've been putting, like the ESN and all those? Do you think that's a big deal?
If you're using one of those really inexpensive rods that weighs a lot, then it might be a big deal to help balance it. But most rods these days are so light and most of the reels don't require the most recent reels I've bought. The Lamson Guru E has a weight system on it, but I don't use any of the weights on the really lightweight rods that I'm using.
You're just using it for the full cage.
Yeah, I don't even need the full cage. I just use it because I like the color and I like the arbor size.
Truth comes out. We're all suckers, even Lance.
The full cage is helpful if you're having trouble with the line getting out of the frame, but I think that happens more to people using a mono rig rather than a Euro rig.
Yeah, that's what happens to me when I'm fishing just straight.
And if you're pulling, I guess I teach everybody in my classes and things to pull all the line they need off the reel first. So if you're doing that, you're not pulling it into that corner where the line can get through the little gap between the frame and the spool. So if you're doing that, I don't really find that the full cage is necessary. It doesn't hurt anything either.
Wait, can you go through that little tip just now that you said again?
So if you pull all the line off the reel that you're going to need to cast first. So people have a terrible habit of pulling line off the reel while they're casting, especially on a back cast, and it pulls the fly line right into the corner of the reel. And on a really thin Euro line or just a mono rig, a thin leader, that if you have a reel especially that doesn't have really tight tolerances, the thin diameter lines can get between the little frame support and the spool, and it pops your line out of where you want the line to be coming off the reel, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's something people talk about in internet forums and things. I guess for me, it's just never really been an issue, but I also don't pull line off my reel while I'm casting much. I just pull it all off first. If you're pulling it off the direction the line's designed to come off the reel without pulling it directly against the frame, none of this is a worry. Just most people don't do it that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm not most people, okay?
Nope, you are not. You are only one person, not most people.
Okay, that's good. That's advice we've told people before, but it's good to come back to those things. And I didn't realize that was what caused that really annoying problem that really does get under my skin sometimes. When
it's not the only way it can get out. It could also get out from just having loose line in your reel, but that's less common.
Right. All right. That's kind of reels. I mean, there's again. Fly fishing reels, they have like their own special place. The last thing I'll say about it, since the last one we made, I've gotten into vintage reels, and I do agree with Lance that my trout reel. It's funny. I will put this out there. So I have an Orvis CFO reel, and then I have one of these old Flugers from like 1955, and I got this Orvis one being like, I don't want to wear out the old one. And I hate the thing. It's supposed to be like a vintage styled reel, but it doesn't sound right. When I use the old one, it sounds so good. It's like this like mellow click, with the new one has like this more like higher timbre, and I'm not vibing.
We're comparing the Fluger Medalist sound to the Orvis CFO sound?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
And so because of that, I'm going back to my old reel. And I'm selling this thing. Just real talk right there. But
it's just too loud for you.
It is. But the old ones are. I'm into these old reels. I have another one actually to match my glass rod. It's a Fluger also. It's just a bigger one. It's like for an 8-weight, and it's sick too. And the sound is like.
Yes.
It's like so mellow. I love it. Anyways.
Oh, I've owned some Fluger. I don't have any currently, but I've owned some Fluger Medalists in my day.
They're cool. They're cool reels. People collect them. You can get very nerdy on that, which I did. I got one of the OG ones, which I'm pretty pumped about. But
nice.
But I don't like take care of my gear that well. So sadly, I was like, I'm gonna end up ruining this thing, which is why I got the Orvis one. But no, it's not for me. Fake new is not for me. I don't want my denim jeans worn looking. I just want them normal, and then I put the wear in them.
You're the guy that goes shopping with his niece or nephew, and you go, why are they selling these jeans with holes in them? I'm talking to the manager.
Yeah, exactly.
The Scientific Anglers segment.
We are back in the SA saddle and happy to be here. Today on the SA seg, I want to chat a little bit about these textured lines because, well, quite honestly, I'm a little curious. I cast one at my brother Mario's house. He got one, and the thing was kind of insane to me. It feels like crazy in your hand, and they just like soar, right? So my understanding of these textured lines is that they are really good for picking up line off the water, because they're textured, there's a gap between each little ridge, and that means there's less surface area against the water. So it's much easier to pick them up on your back cast. But after chatting with Lance for a little bit, there's a whole other thing that I was missing, which would explain why I sort of fell in love with the way it felt to cast. So, Lance, why don't you give us a little backstory on your experience with these textured lines and then how they play out in real time?
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I think what you're referencing are currently their amplitude textured series of
Exactly.
lines. They make different tapers in them, but that's their current line that's available. So the whole idea in texturing this line is to reduce friction. So if we take a step back, maybe I'll tell you a quick story. So the current fly line designer and product designer, one of them anyway, at SA is Josh Jenkins, and he's kind of created the most recent versions of this. But if you go back a number of years, I think we're somewhere in the neighborhood of, I know it's 30 plus, it might even be in the 40 plus year range. A fellow by the name of Bruce Richards was kind of heading up the fly line design tapers and things like that. And Bruce is a friend of mine, and Bruce one time, again, this is, I'm not even sure, 15 plus years ago. Mm-hmm. I got a little package in the mail from Bruce, being on I was on SA's pro staff, have been for a long time. And this little package had a little fly line in a Ziploc bag, no like official retail type packaging. And it had a note from Bruce that said something like, regards, Lance, hope you're well, everything's well in your world, sort of a thing. Please try this new fly line for the, in quotation marks, ultimate casting experience.
Oh, wow.
And that was all that it said. And then it was like, all my best, Bruce Richards. Okay, cool. Thanks, Bruce. So I get this little fly line out of the package, out of the Ziploc bag, and you're underwhelmed just because of the packaging, because you usually get sent stuff in boxes a lot of times, right? When you get a new fly line, it comes in retail packaging. Well, this was more of a prototype. So I pull this line out and it feels really rough to the touch. And I'm like, what kind of junk is this guy sending me? Like, I know Bruce pretty well. I know he's not going to send me junk, but I'm like, what is this? Like, this feels like the roughest fly line I've ever felt. You could feel the texturing on it.
Yeah.
So I actually reached out to him and just said, like, what is this? And he's like, have you cast it yet? I said, no, it just feels weird. He goes, yeah, it feels weird. Have you cast it yet? I'm like, no, I haven't cast it yet. He's like, call me back after you've cast it. So I loaded it on a reel and I took it just to the park and just cast it on the grass. And this line wanted to get as far away from that rod as fast as it could. It just shot through the guides like there was no friction at all.
Wow.
Obviously there was, but it dramatically decreased the friction of the fly line in contact with the guides. That was what was called the shark skin. So my understanding, Josh could clear this up for me, I'm sure, if I misspeak here, but my understanding is that the shark skin line was named because they found that sharks have a pattern across the surface of their body that enables them to slide through the water with less friction. So water, believe it or not, has friction, right? When you're swimming, that's why you have to propel yourself, because it's kind of hard to move through. And this pattern on the shark skin allows them, I think, to slide through water easier than basically any other fish that swims. So they thought, why not be able to take that same type of pattern and technology, apply it to a fly line, and reduce friction in and out of the guides. And at the same time, to your point, it also lifts off the water easier, it floats higher, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So that was what was called the shark skin fly line. It was a very aggressively textured fly line. Some people didn't love it. The drawback to it is that it has less friction on products that are very hard, like chrome snake guides on your fly rod. Mm-hmm. It on something as soft as like your skin, especially after you've been waterlogging your fingers for hours while you're fishing, it can cut into your fingers a little bit because your skin can be softer than what it's designed to go through, like a fly line guide. So some people didn't like it for things like stripping streamers and things where they're taking in a lot of line all day long. So in the evolution of this product, it went from shark skin to shark wave. The current product, as we mentioned, is this amplitude textured. So it now has kind of the shark skin type of texturing near the front of the line where it needs the most shootability and needs to float the highest. Mm-hmm. But it transitions to more golf ball dimple type technology for the texturing in the back end, the middle and back end of the line.
Crazy.
So it's less aggressively textured, doesn't affect your fingers as much, but still has a lot of the benefits of shooting through the guide. So that is their current kind of textured amplitude type line. And again, those come in all kinds of tapers: trout tapers, saltwater tapers, half line heavy, full line heavy, true to weight. They make it in every conceivable formulation.
Very cool.
The other cool thing about texturing is it's a give and a take. It makes a little bit of noise, right? You can kind of hear it zinging through the guides.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
So some people don't love that sound. I've even heard people say they think it spooks fish. That is 100% not true. Like that's like saying you can't talk. You spot a fish and the spotter has to use sign language to tell you where it is because they can hear you, right? It's not scaring fish. But what it does do is it makes a kind of a resonating type of sound in the guides. And they actually put some texturing on like sinking lines as well. So they have little sections of texture that tell you kind of where you are in the line to let you know it's about time to pick up, or you'll both feel it in your fingers and you can hear it going through the guides when you hit those little textured sections in some of their sinking line products. So it's kind of a cool technology.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to have to check that out, man. I mean, I didn't know anything really about it. I just cast it at my brother's house and I was like, whoa, why is this thing so nuts? And it makes a lot of sense now.
That is those amplitude textured lines are my go-to like trout lines for floating purposes. I use several of their tapers. Big fan of their infinity taper. I really like their trout taper for more delicate presentation stuff. Those are my go-tos. We sell a ton of them in the shop, and if you haven't tried an SA textured line, I highly suggest it.
Very cool. That's 80 years of innovation right there, y'all.
80 years.
80.
That's a long time.
That is a long time.
They ought to know something about it by now, and they prove it in their products.
I agree.
Sound effects.
Let's keep moving. We're going to talk about lines now, which line technology is like, we are like in the golden age of that right now, I would say. And it's constantly changing. And every time you go onto any manufacturer, Cortland, Rio, Orvis, whatever, Scientific Anglers, same thing, you kind of see a new sort of grouping of lines out there. Has any of the lines, have any of them changed for you in the last couple of years?
No, not really. I use most of the same lines still.
That means that they've been manufactured year after year for a while then, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Most of them, there's always some new lines coming out, right? Some new tapers or something like that, but the basic technologies in the last 2 or 3 years have not changed.
What are you using for trout fishing dry fly?
Dry fly, I've been mostly using the Scientific Anglers Amplitude series. I really like their textured lines, so I've been using either their trout taper for really delicate stuff, or the Infinity is kind of more all around.
So you're using textured, huh?
I do like textured lines for my floating lines, yes.
Oh, cool. Why is that? Because they float higher? Or?
I think so. I think they float higher, lift off the water easier. They slide through the guides. They just shoot better, I think, too. When they're warm, especially, they tend not to get as tacky, as sticky, on a boat deck, or in the summertime in a drift boat, or in the hot raft, just baking in the sun. They just seem to stay slicker, and I don't know, they float really well. And it's just the types of lines that I've really grown to love compared to the smooth finish options.
Nice. What are you using for streamers?
Streamers, mostly sink tips. So for me, mostly the Scientific Anglers Titan taper, or their Cold 25, like their 25-foot sink heads that come in 150, 200, 250, depending on the grain weights you want, and on they go 300 and so on. But yeah, for bigger rivers, usually those 25-foot heads. For smaller rivers, more of the 10 to 15-foot heads. I should say sinking tips, not just heads. They have longer head lengths than that. But yeah, I'm kind of a Scientific Anglers snob on most of my lines. The exception, some of the lines I've been using for Stillwater, I've been using some airflows in midge tips and sinking lines for a number of years. I've really liked those. I have tried some Rio midge tips recently that have been really nice as well. I also fished Rio midge tips years ago, but for a little while there, some of the Rio, their Connect Core lines weren't the cores were not well connected, I guess.
That's ironic.
Ironic name. Yeah. I don't, maybe it was just me, but I had a little trouble with some of the Rio sinking and midship lines nuts. The bond from coating to core was not very good. I understand they've changed that. They just came out with a brand new series of lines, like their Gold XP and their Gold Max and all that. I haven't fished those yet, but we have a few samples at the shop, and most people that have fished them have been really liking them. So I'm not trying to throw Rio under the bus here. Just I used to fish a bunch of their midge tip lines. I really liked the tapers of them, but durability was a little bit of an issue. Airflows I think are not as slick. Their sinking lines are definitely, in my opinion, not as slick finish wise as the SAs or probably the Rios, but they do hold up well, and I really like their taper I've been fishing their sinking lines and what they call their 40 plus expert tapers. They're not very easy to get in the US, but they're a little longer head 40 plus type of line, so they shoot really, really well. What else? Euro lines, I've been using mostly the Cortland or the SA, just their 22,000s braided core lines for the most part. I have some of the monocores too, but I bounce back and forth. In the summer, sometimes I use a monocore because they don't have as much memory when it's hot out, but in the wintertime, I really favor the braided core for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I don't really have much to add on that except for since I went Dorado fishing. Well, I was using a Rio outbound short for my surf fishing, and it seemed like a very applicable head for Dorado fishing.
Sure.
Which it was. So I do like that. I do like that line. But what I like more about the line is that I learned how to cast it properly. Because I think before I was just kind of like false casting, where I probably didn't really need to with that line, right? If you have enough of it out, you just pick up one bad cast and
yeah, normally those have a 33-foot head, I think, and you just get to that head, that transition, and just let her rip.
Yeah, so I didn't really know that, so I had kind of been using it not the way it was intended in the surf. I'm excited to go this summer because I'm going to be bombing things now that I know how to use that thing proper.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my big discovery, was just sort of, well, I've talked about this before, but just the line leader connection and paying more attention to like the head on a fly line it's a big deal. And now they come in so many different sort of shapes and sizes that it's something you kind of want to look into, the grain weights and how they taper and how long they are when you're looking for a new fly line. And there's the utilitarian sort of like all-rounder lines that might serve your purpose in general, but if you're trying to get more specific, it's definitely something to look into. I think it makes a big difference depending on what you're throwing,
Agreed, yeah. Yeah, that outbound short would be a really good Dorado type line. When I went Dorado fishing, I used the Scientific Anglers Titan tapers. They're a little different head than the outbound short, but again, designed to turn over big flies, and that's another good option for that. That outbound short's awesome for that. What else? I've used the Rio Predator for some like pike and muskie type fishing. And the Titan taper from SA also throws those big flies well. Both of those are designed to kind of handle gigantic flies, if you will. Otherwise, saltwater wise, I've mostly been using some of the SA, like the amplitude salts, the infinity salt, comes in an amplitude, but infinity salt taper. And then, like you said, that's a little more multi-purpose type line. Every company, be it Rio, be it Airflow, be it SA, they all make like bonefish specific permit lines,
right?
Tarpon lines, redfish lines, and so on, where you can get really rabbit holey on the fly lines. And I do a little saltwater fishing, not a lot, so I tend to kind of get lines that cover as many bases as possible for that, and then get real nerdy on my fishing that I do every week.
It's a line you should check out that I happened to buy it sort of just doing research, and then serendipitously when we were fishing down there with Joe from Diamondback, he actually ended up, I didn't realize this, but he had designed that line. It's one of his lines.
From Cortland?
And matched on one of his rods. It was like, oh, wow, this thing's insane. I don't know, he's kind of biased, but he was like, I can't believe I'm fishing my line on my rod, like from 2 different jobs, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, this thing, he's like, I forgot about this line. It casts so well. And I have to say, I totally agree. And it's more than just the casting, but the casting was cool on it. It's the Cortland Liquid Crystal series. But what's cool about it is that it's a floating line, but it's almost like translucent, like on like a intermediate sink or something.
Okay.
I think SA makes that one that's clear.
Yeah, so it has a monocore probably.
So it's like really stealthy, but it also sinks just like ever so slightly. So it's not like floating perfectly on like the meniscus. It's just like slightly below it, which is like perfect for, if you're in salt where we fish, you can fish permit on dry flies on floating crab patterns. So it's like perfect for that, perfect for tarpon, for just getting like just below the surface. It was great. We loved the line, and kind of everyone that was fishing our rods had some sort of comment to make on it. So
That's cool.
one that's worth checking out. That was kind of under the radar.
Yeah.
We'll put a link to it in the show notes.
Perfect.
Purge the purge, people. Aside from that, I don't really have any other ones. I kind of abandoned the GEARRRR line for a while, and one of the ones that I didn't like, actually, not to bring it back full circle, was the Rio one, because it just like fell apart after one season. I was really pissed about that, because that's like expensive. I mean, euros are cheaper, but it's like, pay $60 for something.
Yeah, 50, $60.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty good. I think that we covered lines as much. Again, this is like, we're trying to cover what's new, I guess we didn't have to go so deep in the clothes for that, but too late.
Well, it could be new to somebody if they're not familiar with how to layer. Or how to stay cool when it's hot.
Well, the last couple sections we have here, we're going to lump into one. It's accessories and miscellaneous, but the miscellaneous stuff kind of fits in with the accessories, so it's not a big deal. But as far as gear goes, you need floatant. Have you updated your floatant at all? Are you
No.
still using Loxa for your CDC flies?
Loxa or Tiemco Dry Magic, I often have both of them in my pack, and I seem to I don't really have a preference, to be honest. It just seems to be which pocket do I have open and which one do I reach for first.
Hey. And is Dry Magic gel?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. And then what about powders?
Powders, I'm using Shimazaki Dry Shake.
Me too. I probably got that from you and didn't realize.
Probably not. It's a common one, but yeah, that's the powder.
I like that you can refill it too. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's a nice little perk, I think, that you can keep the same bottle and keep refilling. I'm into that.
Totally.
Okay. What about Tippet?
Tippet, I've mostly been using the Scientific Anglers fluorocarbon, either their absolute fluorocarbon or their absolute. So they have the absolute trout and they have their absolute trout supreme, I think is what they call the other one. I have quite a few spools of both, but I guess I mostly use their standard fluorocarbon for day-to-day fishing. But when I get large fish or really, really fine tippets, I've been tending more towards their more expensive, higher-end, product, which is, I don't care about the price so much as it's just a higher pound test per diameter, right? Higher breaking strength per diameter. Mm-hmm. So when I'm getting 6X or 7X, I've been mostly using that stuff.
Okay, cool.
Trout premium stuff.
What are your thoughts on Trout Hunter?
Trout Hunter is good stuff too. I liked it in lighter weight stuff. I have not had good success with it in thicker than 5X, but like
good to know.
Their 5, 6, 7, those are all good. And I like their half sizes. Their 5.5 I really like. Their 6.5 I really like. I haven't been using it much lately, but I did use it for a long while and it works quite well.
Okay, cool. That's pretty good on Tippet. Well, nippers. Are you one of these guys that has like super special nippers? Super
special in what way?
Like I had a pair of Orvis nippers that were like $80 and then I lost them and I'll never buy expensive nippers again.
No, I've been using the Dr. Slick, what do they call them? Dr. Slick satin nipper with file. It's like an angled nipper. It's just like a little stainless steel where they come in black too. And then it has a hook file on one side of the nipper.
Oh, that's cool.
That's my favorite pair just because they seem to, and they're like $15, so they're not they're not the $5, $4, $3 nipper, but they're not $80 nippers or $250 nippers.
Yeah.
They cut well. They last quite long relative to inexpensive nippers, and I use the file on them constantly just to touch up a streamer hook or a little nymph hook or even a dry fly occasionally when you strike bone on a brown trout mouth or something and your point gets deflected just slightly. So that's my favorite nipper, little Dr. Slick.
I love it. That's cool. I'm gonna get those. What about hemostats?
I hardly ever use hemostats. I'm staring at some of my pack right now. I have probably used them. I can't think of a time in the last 5 years, but I probably have pulled them out for something. I can't recall what. I hardly ever use them.
Yeah, I used them last April, about a year ago, when I had a really, really eager trout take my dry fly, and he just ate it way too deep. And I tried to get the hook out, and I couldn't. It was like the thing was just bleeding out. It was horrific.
I use those little catch and release, the Lamson catch and release tools. Slide right down the line, pop the fly out. Or sometimes fish eats it so deep. Thankfully, not very often, but once in a great while, it's probably best just to take it home because it's not going to make it no reason to leave it there and let it go to waste.
Yeah, that was like the first time that ever happened. So I was like, well, I guess we're going to eat this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks. You feel bad, but you'd probably rather do that than let it go to waste, right?
Definitely. And I will say, I don't know, I need to spend more time sampling, but brown trout from spring creeks don't taste good. That's my take.
I don't think, I guess I haven't eaten very many brown trout, but those that I have tried don't taste very good.
It tasted like...
I don't think trout in general tastes very good, to be honest, but...
I like trout, but that was not...
It was not the best one.
Not my thing, no. It was like, I'm eating the river. Hard pass.
Yeah, no thank you. I used to use my forceps before I used tippet rings when I would want to connect really thin tippet to like a slightly thicker cider, and then the diameters were quite a bit different, sometimes cinching up like a triple surgeon's knot to those two, pulling with on the tag ends with like by pinching with forceps and rolling on the forceps, you could really get the knot seated better.
Oh.
And it would be a lot more durable. That was probably the last time I really used the forceps a lot. They're on my pack and I always have them there. I often wonder why, because I never use them, but
Fair. Yeah, it's one of those weird things I don't use very often.
I guess the other time I would maybe use them is debarbing a hook occasionally, but I mostly use barbless hooks, and if they're not, I usually debarb them before I ever even tie the fly. So I don't really even use them for that much, but that would be another possible use.
Occasionally I use split shot, mainly if I have a streamer on it's not heavy enough. Mm-hmm. And I'll use them for closing the split shot, but
naturally,
because teeth are the first thing I go.
That's your go-to, yeah.
And then I'm like, it doesn't look perfect. And I pull out.
My wife, the dental hygienist, would sock you right in the mouth for saying that your teeth are your go-to. But yes, I understand. I haven't fished with split shot much for a long, long time. So I used to use them for that. Of course, I never even take split shot with me anymore. So I can't say that I use them for that. But if you're using split shot occasionally, that's definitely a good use for them.
Yeah.
Or if you're using split shot a lot, you definitely got to have them.
All right, cool. Cider wax markers. That's kind of some newer stuff. I know markers got hot there for a second.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? That's for your own nymphing if you don't know.
It is for your own nymphing. I've used both. I carry the cider marker, the paint marker in my pack most of the time. I've kind of gone away from the wax. The wax just makes too much of a mess for me.
Such a mess, yeah.
Yeah. You can see it pretty well.
My waders are like pink right now.
Right, yeah. And if it gets hot, it can melt in your pack. And I don't know, you got to keep a little paper towel or something to wipe it off your leader, your tippet. I got away from the wax, but the paint markers, they work pretty well. I don't use them very much. I'm more of a fan of just using fresh cider. I just put fresh cider on every second day or so out, and I can see that really well. And for most of what I'm doing, I don't need to adjust it very much. I just adjust how high my cider is above the water, or how long my drifts are, or
when people are learning a Euro nymph, you teach them to put the tippet ring like right at the water, right?
Right.
But you're saying that you don't have to really do that anymore. You can lift the tippet up higher, the tippet
correct
ring, and you just know how deep you are because you've done it so many times.
Yeah, if you're using a relatively the same amount of tippet each time, right? And
yeah, you know where bottom is because you'll snag it.
If you're trying to get depth, then you definitely need to have the cider closer to the water. But I guess I don't always do that. You can change your presentation angles. There's all kinds of things you can do without having to add cider, wax, or a marker to it. That said, in a pinch, when you want to get real shallow, the one time that I do use the paint marker occasionally is when I've been nymphing, and I've been nymphing with a pretty long piece of tippet, and I want to probably go back to nymphing, but I have a little eddy or a deep pool that I want to jig a streamer through, and I don't want quite as much distance from my cider to my fly. That's where you can put a little cider marker that's like halfway down your first piece of tippet. Then you can tie the streamer on, still fish it, but then tie, without losing your tags, you can just go right back to nymphing again when you're done.
Right.
That's the type of situation where it's really nice.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably how most people use it, is just so you don't have to cut and re-rig. You just basically put the marker on the tippet, the clear part of the tippet, and kind of make another cider.
It totally is.
So it's not your cider material, it's just a marker cider. That's how I use it.
It is 100% that. I guess my point is more, or on the nymphing end of things, I just don't find that I go so much from drastic changes in my nymph rig to necessitate it. But when I change techniques altogether, then that makes a difference.
All right, cool. So is there any type of marker that you use in particular?
I've been using the SA, their little cider markers, Scientific Anglers.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I bought the Adams one when it came out. And I haven't actually, I think I used it one time. It's got like 3 different colors in one marker.
That's a cool design.
I buy a lot of my Euro stuff from Frosty Fly in Canada because they have a lot of stuff that I haven't seen here.
Interesting.
More good on ciders. One little knickknack that I have here in the accessories list, is this thing that I found that it's like it clips onto your rod and it's got a magnet on it. So when you have a dropper tag on your nymph rig, you can just pull your fly up and put it on the magnet that's like clipped on your actual rod. And I found it very nice. It's out of the way of any casting because it's on the back side of your rod and it doesn't weigh very much or anything. So it doesn't really affect the way the rod feels or anything. But when you're in transit, you have a magnet that holds your dropper tag from like spinning around and getting tangled.
Sure.
I've liked that thing. I use it quite often.
Cool.
The only caveat is that it tends to get lost because it's tiny. But I gave it to my brother too. I think he lost his.
Oh no.
But if you can keep it from being lost, it's a really good little tool.
Cool.
Oh, okay. Let's move to fly boxes. Are you still using the same ones? You were using Umpqua ones for a while, weren't you?
I use a mix of boxes, but yeah, Umpqua and CNF Design are probably my go-tos for majority of my stuff.
I'm in the fish pond camp. I'm using the tacky boxes.
I have some of those as well. Yeah, they're good boxes.
Yeah, it just, I also have one of those Cliff ones because that was what all the cool kids had for all their big ass streamers. But the problem is, I'm like, I don't know. It seems like it's not that practical or something. How do you feel about those Cliff boxes?
You're talking like the Bugger Beasts or the really big ones, or just like the Bugger Barns?
I have the blue one that's like this big.
The blue one.
It's not like the yellow one with the clasps.
Yeah,
on it.
okay. Yeah, so you're just talking like a Bugger Barn, I think, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I
Bugger
think
Barn.
so.
The Bugger Beast and Bugger Beast Jr. are the big yellow ones. So the Bugger Barn, yeah, I mean, that's a good box for streamers and things. It's large, so you have to have the capacity in your pack or your vest, a pocket that's big enough to house it. But if you have that, it works great.
Okay, cool. He likes the Bugger Barn.
Bugger, yeah, that's a well-made box. They're long-lasting. The foam's good stuff in it. That's a good box.
Yeah, it's true. It has lasted a lot of. It's funny that I use the sling pack that I use for surf fishing is not waterproof, and I'm always up to my nipples, and it always gets soaked, and I have to like rinse out all my flies, and they all rust. It's not good. Not
Nightmare.
a good situation. But it's lasted throughout all that. It hasn't unglued or anything.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned that you have like a little towel that you keep on your pack. I do too, actually. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, mine's just, I've got it from Umpqua. I think they call it a Wonder Cloth or something like that. It's just a little like, I don't know what they are, maybe 3 inch by 3 inch, or maybe it's 4 inch by 4 inch square that has a little hole, little grommet through it so you can snap it on, clip it on, whatever. I actually just use a safety pin and I keep it kind of like on the inside of my pack. So even when it rains, it has to be a pretty good downpour before it gets that part of that little thing wet, because it's kind of between the pack and my skin or my shirt, my werewolf wool. Sorry, that was uncalled for.
It was.
But yeah, I just use it to dry flies, like especially, I use it on everything from foam, like bionic ants or hoppers, but I also use it a lot on CDC patterns, like corn-fed caddis or like a Spanish-style CDC mayfly, winged mayfly.
That's why I have one of those exactly for that, for drying my CDC flies.
Yeah, they're great.
Probably got that from you too and didn't realize.
Great just to take most of the water out of it, right? And then I use the little rubber band trick for CDC stuff to fling most of the rest of the water out of it.
Yeah, there was a lot of hate on that on Instagram that Curtis put about something that they sell to like do the guitar strum thing.
Yeah.
And people were going nuts on him about that thing.
People go nuts on everything. People are
crazy.
So bored online. I think people need to get out of their grandma's basement and go and experience the real world.
I was like, man, these people are so triggered by this. Like,
they are triggered by
$20 tool.
I've put it up on several things. We put it on YouTube, on Instagram, and all kinds of things. And almost all the comments are like, people are intimidated because you showed them a trick. Like, I don't need that. Gink works great. You're like, Gink was awesome, but that doesn't have anything to do with this. Like, Gink doesn't solve this problem. People get really upset about silly things. I don't understand.
I could just use a rubber band for 10 cents.
Yeah, and you can. And then the rubber band, like a week and a half later, rots in the sun, and then you got to get another 10-cent rubber band. But you can totally do that. Yeah, I don't know. People are funny. Fly fishers are a very easily set off crew. I don't know why that is about everything.
Seems that way.
I put stuff up on my Instagram, like, here's a suggestion. And most of the comments are like, you don't need that. You're an idiot. You're a moron. Why would you even waste your time with that? And you're like, well, it was just a suggestion. Like, number one, I didn't say you have to do this for any particular reason. Anyway, that people are crazy.
Aside from practice casting, there's no hard and fast rules.
No, you need to practice casting. But yeah, I put one of those videos up with drying the fly with the rubber band, and people just hate it. And you're like, man, someone else commented after like 100 people, not really, I'm exaggerating the numbers, but 5 people, I don't have that many followers. 5 people were negative, and one person was like, man, these guys really are negative about this thing. And my response was like, I know it's weird. Like, you try and like share a little bit of information to help people maybe, and most of the comments are people hating on it. You're like, geez, you could just scroll by just as easy as you could. If you don't like it, you don't have to leave a negative comment. But I cry myself to sleep most nights, but I'll work through it eventually.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I cry for you because I read the comments. I get my feelings hurt.
I know, it's rough.
Well, that's that little fly drying thing. I use that also, and then I use the rubber band that what I have is I use 2 strands of like leg material for like a crab pattern. Yeah, and I just have them tied in a knot, and I use that. It's
I do the same.
Yeah, where they snap though. Eventually, it's like every season I have to change them.
Eventually, but they last a lot longer than a rubber band, right? You're talking like the flex floss type of span flex. Yeah, I do the same. I have them on like 4 different places on my pack, so that when the one breaks, I have a backup, and then a third backup, and then eventually I'll remember to replace the one that broke. And yep, I'm the same.
Or you could just get the thing that everyone makes fun of.
The fly banjo is what it's called.
Oh.
Little orange dongle that works pretty well. Yeah.
Well, I'm buying that thing.
I would buy one just to spite all the haters. Plus, it helps me sleep better at night knowing I have one.
You sleep with it tucked into your werewolf.
I actually used to, but then it gets tangled up so much that I had to stop. It gets matted in there, and I lose it for days at a time.
It happens to all werewolves that fly fish.
Yeah, at least until my wife, brushes my back out, and then she finds it.
Oh, me, mate.
Thankfully, my wife has never run a brush through my back. That would be really weird.
Sorry, y'all.
But I mean, to all of you that do actually have a very hairy nape on your back, that's okay. That makes you. It's all right.
That's true.
And if you cry yourself to sleep, we do too. It's okay.
I mean, how do you follow
For
that?
different reasons.
It's impossible. This is quality. I love this. Another accessory, sun protection. That's a really important one. Didn't use it for a long time. I ended up getting basal cell skin cancer. Lesson learned. Use sunscreen.
You got to have sunscreen for sure.
Has that changed for you in any way, shape, or form?
No. I use like at least 50 and most of the time 70.
Same.
SPF or SPF, I like to say it. Sunscreen, because I'm not very good at reapplying. I usually just apply it once, and I need to be better at reapplying part of the way through the day. But I don't want to get any extra sun. I'm not looking for a tan at this point. I'm as ugly as I've ever been, and I'm only going to get uglier with age. So not terribly worried about a really summertime tan. I just want to keep the melanoma from forming.
Fair. That was a nice, curt, swift synopsis.
I didn't hear you disagree with me, so moving right along.
I agree. Well, I put split shot in the accessory list, so look at that. So apparently you do need hemostats if you follow our accessory list.
You gotta have it.
Yeah, I don't really carry any of these split shot. That's just the micro ones. But that's the
lots of people do though. Lots of people carry split shot, and you would have, I would argue most anglers probably do, right? That would be very normal.
Yeah. Unless
you're a dry fly only type of angler, then maybe not. But anybody that fishes subsurface, not anybody, obviously, since I don't carry them, but most everybody would have a split shot. So that'd be a common use.
Yeah, I don't think there's any new technology there. I do know that like George Daniel uses split shot plus the mud
putty,
so he can like take it off when he wants to and
totally
really dial into the.
Yeah, you can add a little and attract little bits of weight without messing with the split shot so much. The putty's a little easier to remove and add for sure. It's a really good hack. I like that one from George for sure.
Indicators are next. And there was a moment where there was like this sort of renaissance of indicators. You kept seeing these new ones and you were like, whoa, what's this thing? What's this thing? And I started buying them all just to test them out. Told you about a bunch of them, but these days I've just gone back to the old trusty New Zealand strike indicator. If I'm going to use an indicator, that's the one I typically tend to go for.
Just yarn.
Unless it's like a very heavy rig, which is
Not common.
I haven't fished a heavy rig in like 4 or 5 years, so
Makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, the yarn style is very popular, like New Zealand. We certainly sell in the shop. We sell the most Oros brand,
Oros,
followed by Airlock, followed by Thingamabobber. Yeah, that changes over time, but those are definitely popular. Ease of adding them on there, the buoyancy, adding them to your leader and removing them from your leader. Those are big deals for the indicator.
Yeah, I like
angler.
the Oros too, especially for like beginners. Like I took a group to Wisconsin, and 2 of the guys they were kids, and so they were just learning, and those Oros were very practical.
It makes sense.
Yeah, that's my take on that. Thermometers. Have you changed that? I found a new one that looks very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's called, let me look up the name really quick.
thermometers. I keep a couple different ones around. I've been mostly using, there's a new one from Fish Pond that's digital that I've been using.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's a little quicker. Otherwise, I still have my old, I can't remember what they called, the Fish Pond analog style.
I found the one that I'm going to get this thing 100% for sure. First of all, it's $7. Love the price point here. Thank you, people.
Nice.
It's by clingfishing.com. It's the stick. It's a temperature tape stick-on thermometer. So you put it on the side of your net, and then you put your net in the water. And it's like, it looks super 80s. It's got like that fade. I wish I should show you, but I know Google's going to mess up. Anyways, I
can look it up.
It was an Instagram ad, and I was like, this thing's sick. I'm buying this for everyone I know. Goes right on the side of your net, on the side of the handle.
And then you just have to dip your net in there.
Mm-hmm.
I saw one, I don't remember what brand it was, but I saw one a while back that you attach it to your wading boot lace.
Oh, wow.
So you're just kind of wearing it all the time. And I can't remember, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I thought it was kind of interesting, except that you'll probably lose one once in a while. But
yeah,
I can't remember.
Lift your foot up.
Well, I think it might have like connected to like like to your phone or something like that, to where you could get kind of, without pulling your boot out of the water, you could get a temperature. I can't remember who made it. It seemed like a really good idea, but at the same time, I don't need a like up to the second update. Yeah, I just need once or twice a day I'm checking up on those sorts of things at most.
Yeah, I'm usually looking at USGS anyways, to be quite honest, but should have a thermometer. That's important. It's very important. At least for trout fishing. Oh, you mentioned that you keep tippet rings.
I do keep tippet rings. Yeah, I always have tippet rings on a swivel in my pack. I use them for connecting the sider to the tippet on a Euro rig, and I also use it on all of my sinking lines and my sink tip lines. I build semi-permanent butt sections, and then I put a tippet ring on the end of those semi-permanent butt sections that I can then change the tippet to whatever I need for that day.
When you do it on your sinking line, what are you doing? You're stripping away like the coating and then making some sort of knot with the core?
I do like a needle nail knot or a nail knot to the fly line with like 20-pound, what I use is 20-pound fluorocarbon, and then I blood knot like 15-pound fluorocarbon to that, making a semi-permanent butt section that's maybe 3 feet long-ish, and 3.5 feet long maybe on a long one, and then the tippet ring, and then all I have to do is change the tippet from there down. I favor that compared to using a taper leader. For sinking line use, I very rarely need the stiffness and mass of a really thick traditional taper leader to kick things over. And the smaller diameter material and being fluorocarbon helps allow the line to pull the leader down with it quicker. I just don't want to tie all that up to the line every single time. So with fluorocarbon and those kind of pound tests, I'll keep them on there for a year or two before I feel like it gets abraded enough that I need to change that butt section. So I just change the tippet for a year or two, and I'm good to go there.
Very cool. I'm gonna steal that one for sure.
Yeah, change the tippet every time I fish, basically. But
what kind of water bottle are you using? I know it's random, but I'm just curious.
Well, on the water, I have to admit I'm still using mostly single-use plastic bottles, but my day-to-day water
Hydro
bottle,
flask?
hydro flask, yeah.
Nice. Okay. So you're not Yeti. Okay. I see how you play.
Yeti would be fine. I don't care. I'm not particular.
If you work at Yeti, we're looking for a sponsor.
Heck, if you work at Hydro Flask, we're looking for a sponsor.
Yeah, we hit him up, but he won't write me back. We're not cool enough yet. Bug spray. You said that you use wipes, which I think is a really good tip. And I started doing that also. The wipes are great, especially for your face more than anything.
Yeah, so I always keep the wipes in the summertime. I like the wipes for two reasons. One, you kind of alluded to there, where you can just kind of pull the wipe across your face. You don't have to get stuff all over your fingers and rub it all in and all that sort of stuff. But I also like the wipes because they just come in a thinner package instead of having to carry like the, an off aerosol can or even the little pump spray bottle that just takes up more space.
Good point.
And where I live again, and I'm in the desert, we have mosquitoes for sure. They're around. If you go to the high country in a wet year, you could run into quite a few more of them. But more often than not, I don't need bug spray very often. And so I always keep it in my pack in the summer just in case I encounter more bugs than I'm anticipating. But I don't often need the whole, I don't need 100% DEET to eat away everything plastic and probably my skin when I put it on there. From where I fish, that's what makes the most sense for me. Now, if you're in a place where the mosquitoes are horrendous, I've fished in lots of places like that, then you're going to be really happy you have a spray bottle or aerosol can or something to help you.
Yeah, we went to Mexico in the rainy season. That was challenging.
I'll bet.
Very challenging. In fact, there was a hatch of male flying ants, which in any other circumstance I would have been so pumped about.
Right.
But I had an entire swarm of them in my room.
Oh, man.
It was brutal. It was so brutal. So what I did was I was like, how am I going to get these things out of here? I'm not going to be able to get them out of here. I don't know how I could. And I was like, I'm going to turn the light on in the hallway by the bathroom and just sleep like that. So I did that, and they all went to the light and just stayed there. But they were constantly pinging at the light, so you could hear it.
Oh, man.
So annoying.
That is annoying.
That was brutal. We only got 2 left here on the list. Thank you if you've made it this far. What you told me, you put your cell phone in a roll top dry bag, which is a cool tip. I have lost many a phone, probably 3 or 4 at this point, to the river. So that's a great tip. I also think maybe having like some sort of a lanyard situation for it is not a bad idea either.
So that's what this is. It's a lanyard, goes around your neck, and then it's just barely bigger than your phone. So you slide the phone in and it has a little roll top. So if you were to go in the water, your phone won't get wet, but it's handy because it's still around your neck. And yeah, that's
cool.
the ideal situation, I think.
Who makes that thing? Is it just like an Amazon type situation, or?
I bet you can find something like that on Amazon. The one I have was made by Sims. I'm not sure if they still offer it, but I have a couple of them that I bought because I liked them so much.
Okay, cool. Good to know. And the last thing I put on here is like a GPS or an Apple Watch. I don't know if you use anything like that. I have a satellite communicator that I use when I go in the backcountry, and I've been extremely happy with this thing. It's made by Zoleo. You buy the unit, but it talks Bluetooth to your phone. I think if you're doing like really extreme stuff, you probably don't want something that connects to your phone because your phone can run out of batteries. But if you're doing, 3-4 days just fishing backcountry, not like climbing or something, I think it's pretty decent. You pay a subscription, but you can put it on pause, and it's like $4 a month. I've been pretty happy with that. I don't know if you have anything like that you use. I
haven't used anything like that. No, those little, I hear lots of people using the Garmin.
Yeah.
What is it called? Outreach or something like that? Or
yeah, the Garmin. Yeah. Yeah. They're all pretty good. I like this one because it was cheap, and the satellite that it connects to is Starlink. So it's like very
reliable. That makes sense. I'm with you. If you're in the backcountry a lot, or you're fishing by yourself a lot, or you're in the middle of nowhere, that's probably a good thing to have.
Yeah. It's been good. And you just touch home every night. You get like 25 texts for the subscription. So you can do that. And then if you have to call, you can call, but like that's more money. So it's pretty good. I've used it on like every trip that I've gone sort of off grid, and I knew I wouldn't have signal. I can always like text him home and be like, hey, going to sleep. I'm still alive,
Right. All is well.
It's a solid play. All right, we've reached the end of our exhausting list of wonderful things. Hopefully you guys have found this enlightening and found the 2.0. I mean, there's a bunch of nuggets in here for sure. Maybe some things you didn't care about, but there's other things that are pretty cool. And, it's been probably like 3 years since we did the first list. So it's kind of nice to revisit these things with a more mature mind and as well future technology, right? So I think those things start adding up. For instance, the semi-automatic reel, that was nowhere to be found in the United States last time we did this. And now you can find them.
True.
Go figure. I predicted that a long time ago. No one listened to me. It's been super real. It's not been super real. It's been real. Lance, thanks for sticking it out this long. It's been super fun, and I'm stoked that we're jamming out season 4.
It is a good time.
If you guys are interested in checking us out in more direct fashion, you can go to thenoobattheknower.com, or you can go to Instagram at thenoobattheknower_ between all of the words and DM us or like us. Please add us. If you could, please also write a review on Apple Podcasts. That really helps us rise to the top of the
Lower leaderboard.
fly fishing podcast, because people are having a hard time finding us on Apple Podcasts somehow. So if you like our podcast, tell your friends and have them write a review too. That's all I got right now. It's been awesome. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you have a good night. Lance, have a wonderful night. You're a trooper.
You as well. Peace. Plus, let's be honest, both Pablo and I have the bicep size that we basically love to cover up more than we love to, the sun's out, guns out does not really apply.
No, you can ask everyone that I climb with. I'm the only person wearing long pants and a long sleeve t-shirt every single time.